Good day, people. How are you doing today? My name is Makeda Valletta, also known as the Renaissance Amazon, and I'm live on my IG page. I will save it and repost it to my YouTube, so be sure to follow me in both places. But in case you're unfamiliar with me, I am an exercise physiologist, a sports nutritionist, a doula, a dancer, specializing in black dance, black dances of the diaspora, particularly in the Americas, all the booty shaking dances. I'm also a sacred sexual educator and working on my master's in medical cannabis science and therapeutics. Okay, so those are all I'm just in the realm of the body, right, and high level performance of the body, and that's what I've committed my life to. And sexuality, sexual energy. Thank you for the compliment. I thank you. Sexual energy, sexuality, and orgasms are also a huge part of our overall health. So if you're dealing with holistic health and you're dealing with the whole body, our genitals are a part of our body, and it's a source of power, okay? Some of you have been following me for a long time, and so you might have seen a lot of my older videos, because I've made many videos in the past talking about the issues with religion and the shame that it has put on people when it comes to sexuality. Thankfully, I wasn't raised religious, but still, even if you weren't, which is very few people who weren't, still society, all societies in all countries are really dictated by the world's three main religions, which are Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And I'm not going to get into a whole history of that. And a lot of people don't know about matriarchal traditions. I see a lot of ignorant conversations that people are making up stuff, and they haven't really done the research to even know what they're talking about. So one book, if I can, I always recommend several books, but one book that I think that every human walking the earth should read is The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth. Okay, by a woman named Barbara Moore and Monica Sajo. Sorry, there's a train going by. Definitely check out that book, okay? Seriously, okay, if you really want to understand the deepness of what I'm talking about. Another book is The Double Goddess, Woman Sharing Power. Okay, those are two really, and also The Shaman in a Woman's Body, okay, by Barbara Tedlock. And I'll write the name of those three books below. But when you're dealing with, first of all, me as a dancer, I have spent, since I grew up studying dance, but ever since 2006, I had deeply immersed myself in studying Haitian folkloric dance, which most people don't know about, including a lot of Haitians, which is sad because Haitian folkloric dance is so full of medicine and history, okay? Medicine and history, okay? So we have the Haitian folkloric dances, stuff from Afro-Cuban dances, which is a huge umbrella of stuff. I have extensively studied Afro-Puerto Rican bomba y plena, stuff from Dominican Republic, palos y congos, and of course I grew up around merengue. So I grew up in New York around Dominicans, so merengue is what you hear, but the palos and congos, that's like more the spiritual stuff. I have studied stuff from Colombia, and I'm not done with that because Colombia has a lot of stuff too. I want to go to the Pacific coast, but in Cartagena, there is a dance called champeta, which is straight from the Congo. It's Congolese soukous. It's all hips, a lot of shaking and gyrating. I have studied Afro-Peruvian, Afro-Brazilian samba. And then we have, I'm American, so then we have the black dances from the American South. We have bounce from New Orleans, which is not easy to do, and I have not mastered that dance. And then we have twerking, which is different, okay? All these dances involve the hips and the booty, and yes, they can arouse sexual energy. They can arouse sexual energy in the person that's doing the dances, and they can arouse sexual energy in the person that's watching the dances. And for those of you who follow me, I'm always speaking up about black dance. A lot of people, I think dance is the most disrespected of all the art forms, okay? The most ignored, but to me, one of the most difficult ones. Because as a dancer, your body is your artistic tool. There's no hiding behind a paintbrush and a canvas. You're not hiding behind your instrument. You're not hiding behind playing a role for a movie, okay? And getting into, completely transforming into something else. Like a dancer, our body is our tool, period, okay? We're visual artists, okay? And when you embody these dances, there's a lot of medicine. Somebody asked me, are there any dance classes that recommend in New York City? Yes, there's several. I definitely recommend studying with Peniel Guerrier, okay, the Haitian dance teacher that he's, out of all the dance styles I've studied, he's the most amazing dance teacher. And out of all the dances I've studied, Haitian folkloric dance is just the most medicinal, powerful, amazing. And he's a Haitian dance teacher in New York. He teaches in Brooklyn on Thursdays and Saturdays at a place called Fit for Dance, a studio that is owned by a black woman. Made a beautiful studio, and he teaches on Fridays in Manhattan. At Perry Dance in Union Square, and then he teaches in Queens on Monday. But yeah, I highly recommend him. And there's other classes too. Yes, La Mora, Ailey, there's a lot of classes. But now that's one thing about New York that's so special. It's a dance mecca. New York is a black dance. New York is a dance mecca, period. But when it comes to black dances, New York is really a mecca for that. New York and the Bay Area. I don't know what happened to every place else, but it's New York and the Bay Area where you find such a plethora of dance classes from the diaspora. But I want to talk today about increasing our orgasmic potential, okay? And I'm really going to focus on the women. I may discuss the men a bit, but I have done videos in the past about the clitoris and how, it's connected to the third eye, and how when women stimulate their clit more, it helps to stimulate your third eye more. So there's a connection. It's the most sensitive part of the body, and the clit is not just a button that people see, okay? There's an internal clitoris. It's much bigger and more profound than what you see on the outside, okay? So even vaginal orgasms are clitoral orgasms, okay? Because you can get to the clit internally as well. So, a lot of women have orgasmic issues, okay? Back in 2007, I started teaching a class to women called sensual strength training, okay? And I actually started teaching the men first, Kundalini strength training. But the men, I worked with them one-on-one because men are not really class-oriented with stuff like that. And it's just a different approach, but it's the same type of concept. And then with women, it was sensual strength training. And the whole thing, okay, first of all, when you just strength training for your whole entire body, whether you're male or female, when you strength train, that's resistance training, lifting weights, doing strength power stuff, it increases your testosterone, okay? And that's in men and women. And that increase in testosterone fuels your sex drive. It makes you want more sex. It makes you want to seek out sex. It makes you more proactive about sex. And so that's true in men and women. There are many women who have orgasms in the gym, okay? Ask some women who work out. A lot of women, when they work, especially their legs, they can get really aroused. And so, but strengthening your muscles, okay, is important for men and women as you age, because as we age, we lose muscle. And when you lose muscle, not only does it slow down your metabolism, but it also can cause functional issues. You know what I'm saying? Issues performing physically. I'm not talking about like just sexually. I mean, just period, like walking upstairs, picking things up, just living your everyday life. Muscle moves bones, okay? Muscles are also, what I mean by that is for me to lift my leg up like this, okay, that my quadricep, which attaches to my hip to my knee, is contracting and shortening to bring my knee up, okay? To lift my arm up, that's my shoulder muscle that's contracting. My anterior deltoid is contracting, shortening to bring my arm up, okay? So muscles move bone, and muscles are also shock absorbers. So the stronger your muscles are, it takes stress off your knees, it takes stress off your back, it takes stress off your ankles. Your shoulders, if you injure a joint, you have to strengthen the muscles around that joint, okay? I told you I have a degree in exercise and sports science. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, okay? So my expertise is, function, performance, okay? I'm not a bodybuilder. Bodybuilders work out for a look so they can pose. They're not athletic at all, okay? So strength training is important for that reason. Strength training is important for that reason for men and women. But then also that testosterone boost, right? But then we move our hips, and men and women should both move the hips, okay? Because when you look in the Congo, which all those countries I named, a lot of those dances the popular dances in the Americas come from the Congo. So you have samba in Brazil, straight Congolese. You got Dominican merengue, straight Congolese. Even Palo Igongos is Congolese. You got Haitian compa, Congolese, and then the Haitian folkloric dances. Even when the spirits are not Congo, those dances, the dance yambolo, banda, they're all Congo derived. The Congo is heavy in the hips. Okay, people see the Afro beats, which is coming out of Nigeria and Ghana. They have nothing on the Congo when it comes to dancing. The Congolese, the footwork is on point in the hips. Okay, so you also got champeta from from Colombia. That's also Congolese. Afro-Cuban rumba, Congo. Samba, Congo. Jamaican dancehall, straight Congo. Okay, straight the dirty wine, all that, Congolese. Trinidadian soca, Congo. And what do we have in New Orleans? Congo Square. Okay, so the Congo has had the greatest influence on black dance in the Americas. Okay, on popular dances. Not that every single dance is Congo derived, but the popular ones. And there's a lot of gyrations and shaking and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of medicine in that. And this is one of my lifelong, like, you will never see me stop dancing. Okay, like, I don't. One of the reasons why I keep myself in shape, and when I say in shape, I'm not talking about in terms of looks. I'm talking about in terms of performance, making sure my knees are good, making sure I could go low, my back is good. It's because I always want to be a dancer. I always want to dance. I want to be 85 and dropping it like it's hot. Period. Okay, that's a goal, performance goal, right? So when you move, most of our blood supply runs through our hips. Okay, and this is men and women. So moving the hips is really important. Also, it stimulates that kundalini. We have a lot of East Indian people in yoga talking about kundalini yoga, and all they do is sit still and breathe and imagine shit, but they're not moving their hips. How are you talking about moving kundalini energy and you're not moving your hips? Okay, so you've got to undulate, you've got to shake, you've got to gyrate, you've got to circle. Okay, you've got to have control. So the dancing is the second component of my course that I taught, where I got women to connect to their hips and move that energy, have control, which helps with orgasms. It helps with moving sexual energy, and it helps with childbirth. Okay, so another thing, it's like the way a woman gets pregnant is often how you get the baby out. Okay, I told you I'm also a doula, so I do all these things, but they're connected. Okay, and they're all connected to the high level performance of the body. How can you have a lot of trainers out here who know nothing about what happens to a woman's body during pregnancy and like postpartum and when she's pregnant, but then the world is like half female, and so, you know what I'm saying? So it's all connected. And so the shame that comes along, and it's really crazy because black people shame more than anybody. White people think the shit's fun. They don't have these it's crazy because colored people, okay, black people, I have to put in quotes, okay, and that's a whole nother conversation. But people of Afro-Indigenous, American Indian, West Central African descent, we have always danced and been shamed because of it, and we tend to be the most critical about it and wanting to continue to shame, right? When it is a super efficient way to heal the body, okay? Shake off trauma. We store trauma in our body, and I've talked about this in many videos. But moving the hips can help. Like, you have some women who have frigidity issues, or maybe even have been abused, okay? And it's important to work on that, period. But especially before a woman has children, because all of that stuff can be reactivated again when a woman when she's pregnant and going through childbirth and becomes a mom and hasn't dealt with this trauma. So the third component of my course is working with this, right? This is a Nani egg. Some people call them yoni eggs. I call them Nani eggs for punani, okay? Punani, which means sacred flower in the Hawaiian language, puanani, okay? And I like to think of women's genitals as a beautiful flower. And I feel like more men should think of it that way too when you approach it, right? Because you don't approach a flower being rough, okay? When a man, and I can't even just say a man, this advice can be given to women too, because as a bisexual woman myself, I must say that it is totally not true when people say that women are better at going down on women because they're women. That's a myth, okay? That's a myth. And I think that women who, thank you. I think the women who are not comfortable with their sexuality, and this is just me speaking of my personal experiences with women, I think that women who are not comfortable with themselves, they are more aggressive sexually with women, and sometimes act like, they want to hurt a person. I know that there are, and just in speaking to men, I know that there are women who are like things super rough and aggressive. I tend to think that a woman who wants things super rough and aggressive, especially from the very beginning, it's one thing if it gets to that point, but if it starts off with some super rough and aggressive, I tend to think those women might have some type of trauma issues. And some of them may not even like sex. There are women who don't even like sex. They just, they want to be hurt. I don't know. It's a whole different thing. But generally speaking, you want to approach women's genitals like a gentle flower. And when you go down on her, you want to use your tongue. You have to understand your tongue is a sensory organ. Okay? So you want to bring your attention to the tip of your tongue, your consciousness, okay? As a dancer, especially a dancer who studies dances from the diaspora, a lot of it is having consciousness in multiple parts of your body. Your shoulders could be doing one thing, you know what I'm saying? And your head is doing something else, and your hips are doing something else, and your feet are doing something different, and then you're switching directions. So you have to have consciousness in your head, and your shoulders, and your hips, and your feet, and what's around you all at the same time, and maintain that, and not look a hot mess, and make it look graceful, okay? Dancers have the best body control. And I think that dancers of the diaspora are top tier when it comes to that, okay? And there's so many benefits I'm going to go so deep into, but it's the consciousness of having. And a lot of people don't have that ability to have consciousness in multiple parts of their body at once. So when you're going down a woman, you want to bring your consciousness to the tip of your tongue, okay, and use your tongue as a sensory organ. Don't just do random shit that you think you're supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of men are too rough. And it's funny, I have a weird sense of humor, but when men jerk off, it's like men a lot of times are so aggressive with themselves. Like, it's funny to me. It's like you guys are going to yank your dick off or something. But you can't bring that same energy to a woman. And it's funny because I've heard women talk about, saying like to men, like it's not a DJ booth. Like you can't be, you're on the clit. You can't be rubbing it all hard like that. That shit don't feel good. Okay. You have to be gentle. And then there's a place where you're firm and gentle, but all that rough and being too, it's just not good. So then it's like the art of fingering, I feel like, is an art that's like kind of lost. But the thing with that too is your consciousness, right? So you want to have your consciousness in your tongue, and then your consciousness in your finger or two. And you have to understand that your fingers are they're not there to act like a dick, okay? They're not there to act like a phallus. They are not trying to replace that because they can't. So what you don't want to do is be just jamming in and out like that, like it's a penis, okay? Because that's going to not feel good. Instead, there are a lot of, like, remember what I said in the beginning about the clit being internal, okay? So the clit is not just the outside that you see. It is surrounding the walls of the vaginal canal. And it's surrounding. So when women have vaginal orgasms, they're also clitoral, okay? And so you can really stimulate a lot by, if you're stimulating the clit, the outside that you see, with your tongue and with your mouth, and then you're using your fingers to further stimulate internally, but you're thinking about, I'm going to give you a tip, or maybe a scientific fact that you may not know. But the most sensitive part is the opening of the vaginal canal, okay? There's a lot of nerve endings in the opening of the vaginal canal. And so you can take, you can just gently circle or gently apply pressure on the walls. And you want to keep your consciousness in your fingers and your tongue, okay? And you don't just want to be like, okay, now that I put my fingers in, what are you doing with your mouth? And so now you're just focusing on your fingers, or you put your fingers in and you're so focused on what your mouth is doing that your fingers are just sitting here resting. Both of those are negative. You have to have consciousness in both places, okay? You're so welcome. So yes, you have to practice having consciousness in both places. Now, for years when I worked with women, like I met so many women who had never had an orgasm. And for years, I met women who had given birth, okay, to like 3 kids vaginally, okay, never had an orgasm. And I used to always think like something, a lot of women have blockages because of religion, okay, shaming women in our sexuality and sex is dirty. So first of all, people like get that sex is dirty shit out of your mind, okay? Sex is not dirty. We come from sex, okay? We wouldn't be here if our parents didn't have sex, period, okay? And sex is not just for reproduction. It's not, okay? Humans are uniquely different than other animals because other animals have like a season that they're in heat, and they only mate when they're in heat. The females only mate when they're in heat. The human female is not like that. We mate all throughout our cycle, okay? Some women even have sex on it. Like, I'm not one of those people that likes doing that, but there are women who do. But you take out the time that I'm bleeding and you give the rest of the month, it's fair game. Other animals aren't like that, okay? Like, they're only mate during a certain time. And so there's a huge connection between sexuality and spirituality, and it plays a lot of a huge role with our health and our hormones. Orgasms, okay, the thing I was going to say too is that moving the hips increases the estrogen. It makes a woman feel more sensual. It's going to arouse those kundalini snakes, okay, that come up. Every single country in the world has snakes and a staff on their medical symbol. Why? Snakes are not evil, okay, that's more biblical bullshit. Snakes are symbols of resurrection, of transformation, okay, they're shedding their skin. They are symbols of sexual energy, of spiritual energy, okay, and sexual energy and spiritual energy are of the same continuum. And so sexual energy and spiritual energy are completely linked. And having orgasms and being, feeling pleasure helps your hormones and your brain function. It's funny because I posted something on my Instagram page the other day about what can happen to men and women if they just don't have sex for long periods of time. Everything that was in this post was true. Talking about women's vagina drying up and atrophying, hormonal issues, attitude issues, and a lot of people, even a man's penis getting smaller and him having erectile dysfunction. And erectile dysfunction, I want to do a video on that too. Maybe I'll talk about both of them in this video. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a separate video. But erectile dysfunction is an epidemic right now. And you know what's really crazy? I found a video, I think it was on YouTube, from the 90s, where they were talking about the problem with erectile dysfunction. Okay? And in 2024, I can tell you there's a problem with erectile dysfunction. And there's I'll do a video about that. I've done videos about that in the past, but I'll do a separate video about that. I'll just talk about a little bit here. But the function of our sexual organs, is important, all right? And so going back to the woman, a lot of women, what I started noticing when I started teaching my class, a lot of women have sexual trauma that causes them to have orgasmic issues. I've met women who say they don't masturbate, which is crazy to me because I have been doing that since before I knew what it was, having orgasms since before I knew what an orgasm was. Okay, I just knew it felt good. I was humping my best friend, a female, when I was like in elementary school or kindergarten or something. Like, so to me, I just didn't understand how, because I've never met a man who said they never had an orgasm. Okay, never met a grown-ass man who never had an orgasm. So it's like, why is, and you should be able to give it to yourself. Okay, so yeah, I'm like, it could be a partner, but like, how come you can't give yourself one? That's an issue, right? And so when I started teaching the class, I started, what happened, because what happens is, when women, these come in different sizes, okay? And when women put these inside, internally, if she just leaves it in and does absolutely nothing, okay, it will, still, the vaginal muscles will work just to hold on to it. Like, even if she's unaware of it, like a woman puts a tampon in. Even if you're unaware of it, and women need to be careful about what they put in their vaginas, okay? I made a video about that, the tampons, even the pads, of course, there's so many things I want to say that like my brain's going all these different places because I'm also thinking, I need to have a pen so I can make sure I come back to what I was saying. But I was thinking, like, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking about sexologists, people who have degrees in sexology, right? People who are clinical sexologists, they have a doctorate or whatever in sexology. I never really agree with anything they say. And the difference between, I always say I'm a sacred sexual educator, and people don't understand what that means. What that means is, okay, the way that I approach talking about sexuality, studying sexuality, is coming from an indigenous perspective, a pre-colonial perspective, and a health perspective, okay? My introduction to studying these things came from Taoist teachings, okay? Back in, almost 20 years ago, when I had male clients personal training clients, okay? Because when you're a personal trainer, you talk to people about their body, like in their health, more than a doctor would. Because it's not like doctors have quick 5-minute conversations. When you're a personal trainer, especially back then, I would be training people 3 times a week, 2-3 times a week for weeks, months, you know what I'm saying? So people tell you a lot about their body, and you actually see things change, and I always wanted to help people. So I've always went and did research. So I had male clients who had erection issues, and I started to do research because I wanted to help them. And then that's when I came across the Taoist stuff, okay? The Taoist teachings. And with that, which is different than Tantra, but really the Taoists in China, they spent thousands of years studying the effects of sex on our health, the effects that sex and sexual actions have on our hormones, our spiritual energy, our health. And they, like I said before, sexuality and spirituality are of the same continuum. The Taoists understood that. The Taoists said the fastest path to enlightenment is through building your sexual energy, your chi. We can build our chi different ways. But the most potent and powerful way to build your chi is through building up and cultivating sexual energy. You also build your chi from the food that you eat, from the air you breathe. Like when the wind blows over large bodies of water, that air has a lot of chi. When you go up in the mountains, a lot of chi. So there's different things, but cultivating sexual energy is the most potent way, and they understood that, right? And so for me, my approach, so if I'm saying that I have a health approach, okay, then I'm not going to be an advocate of using all of these lubes and latexes and polyurethanes and because they spermicides, they have a lot of toxins, okay? I did a whole video about this, the microplastics, okay? We are being attacked by microplastics, and people wonder why every type of cancer, every freaking type of cancer, from brain tumors to breast cancer to uterine cancer to ovarian cancer to prostate cancer, every kind of cancer, colorectal cancer, everything's an epidemic. And the younger and younger people. And there are many reasons, and part of that is all this microplastic exposure. And the skin, I'm always talking about the skin, okay? Our skin is our largest organ, and it's our first line, and it's a part of our immune system, okay? It's our first line of defense against infectious organisms getting into your body. You absorb things directly through your skin. The mucous membranes are even more sensitive and more absorbent, and the vaginal tissue is the most absorbent, okay? And so for me, when I study sexuality, I'm taking out the religious dogma, okay? Because that's a bunch of rewritten bullshit to brainwash people, okay? So I take that out, and I wasn't raised with it, thankfully, but it's still lingering around in society, so I removed that, okay? And then I realize that we're animals at the end of the day, because we are. We're different than some of the other, animals, but we're still animals. So you can try to run from nature, right? Which gets people in a lot of trouble and causes a lot of people a lot of hardships in life, because people don't want to fess up to nature. They want to steal what society is saying is right, and religion is in direct opposition to nature, okay? And I can do a whole talk about that. All these things I'm saying, I can go off on a tangent for an hour about that. Which is some of the issues with monogamy. Like, I'm just going to say this real quick. I was listening to a conversation, like, it was on Clubhouse the other day, where they were talking about they were talking about marriage, right? And do you want marriage like your grandparents, right? And the conversation was interesting. But one of the things a lot of them kept talking about was how their grandfather had a secret family, and they found out like a lot of the men in their family had other kids in other families, and how like the grandmother just put up with it and grinned and smiled and like that, and people were acting like, you know, I would never put up with that, and that was a thing of the past. Now, I don't know if that in my family. I have never, like, I hear a lot of black people talk about that. I must tell you, I have never heard a story like that in my family of people having secret families. And actually in my family, all the families are intact. I don't have any cousins whose fathers weren't there. Like, everybody's been married forever. Like, my parents are still married. They were in the house every day of my life. So I didn't, and just because people are married doesn't mean they can't have secret families. I'm just saying I never saw that in my family, but I hear that a lot from people. And I've also heard from people that back in the day, men would go away to war and come back, and there was another baby in the house, and the man didn't ask any questions. He kind of just took care of the baby and like didn't say nothing, and that baby might not have been his. Now think about it. What were men going to do before DNA tests? When did paternity tests come out? Like in the 70s, 80s? I don't know, right? But they weren't always around. So before that, how were men to know for sure who the father was? Okay, we've been on this planet for thousands of years. People are naive to think that women were only having sex with that man, because that's not true in any species, okay? It's the myth of monogamy. I wish I had this book over here. I didn't bring my stack of books, but there's a book called The Myth of Monogamy, another book called Sex at Dawn. But I'm just saying that as animals, okay, males are programmed to spread their seed, and like if you think about it in that way, it's like, and some men might fight it, and doesn't mean every man does it in this day and age, because there's a lot of humiliation that comes with it, and people care about being accepted in society and people's feelings and everything. But in traditional pre-colonial societies, marriage always existed, okay? It always existed. But nobody was just having sex with their spouse. Marriage, and it wasn't about love either. Marriage was about the society functioning properly. So if you have a husband and a wife, the wife has her roles in the house and society, and the man, the husband, he has his roles in the house and in society, right? And so if you have those roles, then the society can function properly. But it had nothing to do with, I love you so much that I'm not going to have sex with somebody else, because those two things are not, sex and love are not the same. Like, somebody can love somebody to death doesn't mean they don't want to have sex with somebody else, okay? Period. And that's true for men and women. Then people like to push this myth that men can have sex without their feelings attached, but women can't do that. That's a lie, okay? Women can have sex. There's plenty of women that can have sex without feelings, and there's plenty of men that fall in love when they have sex with a chick, okay? So that's not, no, all right? So people love to just keep reciting this bullshit, you know what I'm saying? So the fact of the matter is, we're sexual beings. We are sexual beings, okay? Period. And when people are so judgmental, like even now, of, oh, this woman has a kid she has kids with two different men. He got kids with three different women. Like, yeah, it's a problem if you're having kids with losers. But if you have somebody, if you know someone like Erykah Badu, okay, Erykah Badu has 3 kids with 3 different dope ass rappers, 3 different dope ass rappers, and she didn't have kids with 3 losers or bums or, you know, irresponsible men who were bad fathers. No, they were all good dudes. You ain't never seen her beef with none of them or complain. So when people want to put everything in a box, and the thing is that we are programmed to be that way for genetic diversity. So let's think back in the day when people were saying that grandpa, you know, had secret families and grandma was probably having kids that wasn't his. People back then were having like 10 kids, 12 kids, 13 kids. No one's doing that now. And it's not just because of finances. You know, a lot of people are having fertility issues, and it's not just because, I mean, there's so many factors, but part of it could be because of that. Because maybe we're not meant to just be like trying with this one person all the time, because that's not how it's been. And so I'm not going to get too deep into that, because that wasn't what this talk was about. But I'm just saying that, you know, the decolonization, a lot of people aren't ready to go pre-colonial. I do that because when it comes to health, that's where the truth is, okay? The truth is If you want to live, your healthiest, longest, best life, and you want the truth and you're ready for it, you got to go pre-colonial, okay? And the truth is that they weren't all uptight about sexuality and sex. Like, when you look at primary documents, I'm also hugely into history and anthropology, okay? And when you look at the primary documents, like right now, I'm on Turtle Island, okay? United States of America. On this land, okay, there were Native American chiefs who would have their wife go have sex with a chief from another tribe, because that means in times of war and famine, we have allies, okay? There are primary documents that show that when colonizers came to the Caribbean, to certain Caribbean islands, they were the male chief. There were female chiefs like Uisa in Luisa, Puerto Rico. Luisa, Puerto Rico is one of the blackest. I put black in quotes because a lot of times people, when they say black, they mean of African descent. But a lot of black people in North America and in the Americas are really American Indians. Okay, that's a whole nother conversation. Somebody said, "Where's my blunt at? I should be smoking my blunt." I should be. I thought about rolling something before I did this, but I said, let me just get this done because I got stuff to do. But Luisa, which is the blackest part of Puerto Rico, one of the blackest parts, when you come there, you see a painting of Uisa, okay, Uisa, who was the chief, the female chief who was in charge when the Spaniards came. And she's like my complexion, okay? People that are indigenous to the Caribbean are not light-skinned people. Every time you see Native Americans, which really, Native Americans come from Asia, the American Indians, the copper-complected, morenas, maroon people of the Americas were brown, okay? And so anybody who's indigenous to Florida, indigenous to Georgia, to Louisiana, to Mexico, to the Caribbean islands, South America, they're not going to be light because the sun is shining hard, okay? So, but when you see this female chief, Uisa, anyhow, when you see in the primary documents that when the colonizers came, a lot of the male chiefs shared their wife with the colonizers, because they didn't look at their wife like she was property. Just like they didn't look at the land like it was property or the food. They shared, okay? It was the colonizers who came with this mindset of conquering, okay, with their Bibles, okay? I told you about the biblical bullshit, all right? They came with their fucking Bibles. They came with their Bibles, acting like they own this woman and, suppressing her, and I ran through your wife. That type of mindset came from them. That was not the thinking. And the thing is, when you go to Dominican Republic, Latina girls are known to be sexual and Dominican women are very much like that. And a lot of other Latinas, okay, which Latinas can be different ethnic groups, okay. But I think that a lot of that is coming from the indigenous people from that land, okay. That's how they were. And you can see it in the primary documents of what the colonizers wrote, okay. And it's not true that all the Indians were killed. Not in North America, not in the Caribbean. And some Caribbean islands are way more African than others, and that's the conversation for another day that I will do on my other page, Makeda Bloated Travels. But I'm just saying, whenever I have read any books on Afro-Caribbean dance, it's always like, oh, all the Indians died. They had no contribution. And it was all Africans and Europeans, Africans and Europeans. That's a lie, okay? Now, coming back to the whole point. With women, having these orgasmic issues, it's like, part of it could be, because I know for myself, I was never molested, thank goodness. I was not raised religious, thank goodness. And I don't have daddy issues, thank goodness. So I think that those three things can cause women to have sexual issues, right? And I remember when I went through my doula training, we learned that if a woman has sexual trauma, a lot of times that comes out when she's, in labor. It can come out in pregnancy, but it definitely can come out in labor. And so when I went through that training, that's when I realized this work that I was doing with the eggs was not only helping women just to have better sex and have vaginal control now, but it also can help clear out a lot of the traumas that she's dealing with before she has a baby. Now, eggs, period. Just the shape of an egg. It transforms energy, okay? eggs, and you see them on altars in different cultures. Just the shape of an egg is a transformative symbol. Remember, I was talking about the snakes and the snakes going up the poles, and I'm gonna talk about Megan Thee Stallion because her Cobra, her song Cobra, she had the symbolism of snakes and an egg. I talked about Haitian folkloric dance. One of my favorite dances of all time, Haitian dance or any dance, is called Yambalou. Yambalou is a serpent dance in Haitian voodoo that is also associated with snakes, water, and eggs. Okay, so eggs are transformative symbols, just like the serpent. Okay, and you see. I didn't bring any of my books over here. I need to just post my books. I have so many books. Okay, I've been reading for years. Okay. But you see the symbolism also, not just of snakes coming up the staff, but you see snakes wrapped around an egg. What is that? Okay? The snake is symbolizing Kundalini energy. The snake is symbolizing transformative energy. And the egg also symbolizes transformative energy. And the woman puts this inside her vaginal canal. We have, what is it? We have, what is it called? Reflexology points in the vaginal canal, okay, that are connected to meridians. So that's what acupuncture is based off of. Acupuncture is based off of meridians, okay? These are veins of energy, like highways of energy, okay? We have one associated with our lung, with our heart, with our intestines, with, every organ. And these meridians can run backwards. They run a certain direction, but if something traumatic happens, they can run backwards, and that can cause all kinds of health problems. And no matter what you do, it won't be right if you don't fix that, right? And so we have those reflexology points on our feet, on our hands, I think maybe on the ears, and definitely on the genitals. Men have it on the penis, women have it in the vagina. I did a video called Why Size Matters, and in that video, I also talk about that, okay? Those reflexology points and how that plays a role also in size and stuff like that. But if a woman puts this egg inside of her, even though she's unaware of it, okay, it's going to stimulate the reflexology points in the vaginal canal. And so I just said that the reflexology points, acupuncture is based off of this, off of meridians. When they put the little needles on you, those needles, what they're doing is putting needles in little micro points in your meridians, these veins of energy. And when you massage reflexology points, it helps to balance that, right? And so if we have reflexology points in the vaginal canal, and I was telling you that something traumatic happens, it affects those meridians and makes them run different ways and causes all kinds of problems that no matter what you do physically, it's not going to change it until you fix that. So if a woman has trauma, okay, and she puts this inside and it's massaging her reflexology points, and then the egg is a transformative symbol, and then it's a crystal. I said we need to be careful what we put inside of our vaginas. Crystals that come from the earth, okay, this is a rose quartz, which is way better than putting latex and silicone and all freaking lubricants, water-based lubricant, which is full of chemicals, which brings me back to the comment about the sexologist and the difference between what I do and what I'm talking about and them is that my focus is health, okay? Health. Sexologists, they'll tell you, oh, use all these sex toys that are made from plastic, okay? They'll tell you, this is one sexologist who I follow on Instagram, and she said that every single time a woman has sex, she should use lube. I'm like, what the fuck is she talking about? Every single time. First of all, my personal opinion, if a woman needs lube, something is wrong, okay? Either the man hasn't warmed her up enough, okay? Or woman, because she may not. Or she has a vitamin A deficiency, okay? Because the vitamin A is really important for the integrity of our mucous membranes. And that wetness, okay, is coming from your mucous membranes. And a woman with a vitamin A deficiency can definitely have a dry vagina. That is a symptom of it, okay? So all the vegans out there who are always trying to act like, oh, I'm not going to mess with a woman who eats meat because if you just eat pineapples and strawberries, you're going to taste better and your vagina is better. No, because vitamin A is only in animal foods, okay? So if you're on a vegan diet, you're definitely going to have a vitamin A deficiency. You do not get vitamin A from fruits and vegetables. And I'm not going to get into that scientific conversation right now. I do have conversations about that, the biochemistry of vitamin A and stuff on my other page, The Body Scientist. But I'm just telling you, vitamin A is only in animal foods. So if you go on a vegan diet, that shit can dry your vagina out. And I know women who that's happened to. Okay? So you might have that issue. Now, working with a woman's own vaginal fluids have antimicrobial properties. And me being the nerd that I am, okay, because everything that I do is integrated, I read studies all the time. I look studies up and I read them. Also, I can say that semen has antimicrobial properties as well. But the woman's own vaginal fluids are meant to protect us, okay? And so now, when you're using spermicide, which condoms are usually covered with spermicide, then that's killing all the flora in a woman's vagina, which completely kills her defenses against any type of infectious organism and increases her chances of having infections, okay? And then you're using some latex or polyurethane in the vagina that's drying a woman's vagina out, which then can cause micro tears, which is a problem. And then you're using water-based lubricant, which is a whole bunch of cancer-causing chemicals. Just go do the research. Go look at the chemicals that's in a water-based lubricant, which people act like it's just water, but it's not. It's water with a bunch of cancer-causing chemicals. Go look it up. And then think about the fact that the woman's vaginal canal is absorbing that shit. Like, seriously absorbing it. Could that be contributing to the rates of uterine, ovarian cancer? Okay. So working with this egg, what happens is it stimulates the woman's Bartholin glands. Those are the glands that secrete fluids when a woman is aroused. So if a woman puts this in, not only can it help transform trauma because it's massaging the reflexology points, and this is if she does nothing, okay? Because there are exercises that a woman can do. This is what I have been teaching for many years. So I kind of have taken a hiatus and haven't been doing that. I've been just doing a bunch of shit. What am I trying to say? That using this makes the woman a lot wetter. And I remember at the height, this is like a decade ago, when I was like at the height of teaching this, I had a group on Facebook, okay? And it was for women who worked with the egg. And there was a few men in the group, just a few. And I had to fight with women because a lot of women felt like men shouldn't be in the group, and I disagreed. I said a few select men, okay? And I have to say this because some men think I don't like dudes because I'm very critical, but I just call it how I see it. But I'm not anti-male at all. I have a lot of love for men. And I'll defend men. With me, I'm in between everything, okay? I'm not straight, but I'm not gay. I'm from the north and from the south, kind of. Like, it's like everything with me, I'm in two places. Now, I am definitely a woman, but I have a twin brother. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I've always tried to understand men and have some type of empathy. But anyhow, I just am not the kind of woman that feels like, every man. Yes, I am just a straight shooter. Exactly. I never felt like every man's out to get us, and every man, like some women, especially women who have trauma, either they got daddy issues, they were raped or something. Sometimes they're just like hyper aware of any man. Okay. And a lot of lesbians get like this, which is why I don't deal with lesbians. Okay. Like I don't care how cute a chick is. If she tells me she's a lesbian, I'm not doing it because a lot of them really hate men, and I don't hate men. Okay. I'm not a lesbian. I love women, but I'm not a lesbian. And a lot of them want to pull you to that side. That's a whole nother conversation. But the thing is I had a few select men in that group who I felt like were worthy enough to be there. And those were men who were usually connected to women in the group, or a man who I knew was advanced. There are men with advanced brains. They're not the majority, but they exist. And those are the men that I fucks with, right? You're going to have an advanced brain. Now, I felt like it's important because I'm like, these men, some of them are supporting their women. Like there are two people who are best friends of mine to this day, who I met the husband back in, I might have met him back in like 2011 or 2012. And he reached out to me about buying an egg for his wife for their anniversary or something. And she was super frigid. I think she was even judging me back then because I was half naked back then too, my photos and stuff. And I think she was raised very religious. And I think that she even was judging me like, who's this, whatever. And I saw her transform from working with this egg and with his support. And she's a totally different person, way more liberated now. I've known many couples, okay? I've known many couples who they had already had a sex life, right? And they had already had a sex life, of course. And I mean, not had a sex life. I meant an enjoyable sex life. Like, the man might have already liked having sex with his woman. He already liked it. But when she started working with this, he's like, oh my God, like, this shit got so much better. Like, every man said that. Okay. And every woman's orgasms got more intense. Okay. And that was what inspired me to start teaching. I never had an orgasmic problem at all. But when I started working with this, I might have been like 23 years old. Okay. And because I have a background in sports science and exercise science, I'm like, I understand muscles and how muscles work. And it made sense to me to work vaginal muscles. And you don't have to have a problem. Just like you don't have to wait to go to the gym until you have a problem. You know, you do it for prevention and just to be the best that you can be. I've always been focused on being the best I can be. I'm not going to wait till I fall apart to try to fix something, right? And so it made sense to me. So when I started working with the egg back then, my orgasms got more intense. Like, I'm talking about leave my body intense. And I'm like, oh my God. So the things that happened for me working with the egg for 2 years and barely doing much, I said, I have to tell the woman. I got to teach other women. And that's when I started teaching my courses in 2007. So over the years, I taught a lot of women in a lot of places. I saw a lot of women when I went to Costa Rica to teach. I came back a few months later. A lot of those women had left their husband. Okay. A lot of them weren't in good relationships. Okay. And this egg gave them when I went to Costa Rica in 2010 to teach my workshop, there were women who were in tears. Okay. And I didn't expect that. To me, it wasn't that big of a deal. But a lot of them end up leaving their husbands. You know, you go to a lot of countries and women be with men just out of survival. Okay. Again, a lot of that shit don't be about love. A lot of them is just straight survival. And they might have been in abusive situations. But the sexual connection that a lot of people, you know, it just got better for a lot of people. And when a woman is working with this internally, like if it's just in and she's doing nothing, yes, the muscles, she'll still notice changes in her menstrual cycle. She'll still notice that she's getting wetter. She'll still notice probably that her orgasms get more intense. But if a woman takes this, all right, and does conscious exercises, like, okay, let's just say my fingers are our vaginal muscles. So let's say this inside of a woman, and she's like, oh, let me try to push this egg left and right. Let me just try to push it left and right. Or let me try to push it front and back. Or let me try to push it up and down. Or let me try to pulse it here. Or let me try to squeeze it and then relax. And squeeze it and relax. These aren't Kegels, okay? Kegels are just simply squeezing your vaginal muscles and squeezing it. Forget Kegels. This is another level. This is vaginal control. Kegels doesn't teach vaginal control, and Kegels can cause issues. I have done videos on that as well. Okay, just like, again, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. My specialty is strengthening muscles. Not bodybuilding, because bodybuilders are just big muscular waste of space. You know, bodybuilders got a bunch of muscle. They got no agility, no power. They're not really that strong. They can't run fast. They have no endurance. They have no athleticism. So what the fuck is the point of having all this muscle and you can't do shit? Most bodybuilders, I could walk up to them and slap them and walk away. They couldn't do shit because they can't fucking run. So what's the point? You know what I'm saying? You want to have athleticism, performance. And as a dancer, I can tell you want to have rhythmic control over your muscles. Okay? That to me is an important thing. And so now this egg teaches a woman, if she's doing these different exercises, to have rhythmic control over her muscles, her vaginal muscles. And what that does is, if a man is inside of her, yes, he will feel that. Yes, he will think it feels good and it will excite him. But that's secondary. Okay? I never taught this to women so that, so you can please a man and drive him crazy. Like, that will happen. But that's not why I taught that. I taught it for the woman because when a woman does those contractions, it builds up sexual energy in her. Okay? Because when we orgasm, our vaginal muscles contract. So if you just start contracting them, it's going to build up sexual energy and make a woman super aroused. Okay? And I saw so many women, I think a lot of women front a lot with what they want sexually. A lot of women aren't honest about what they want sexually because they're afraid of being judged. Women lie a lot with that to protect a man's ego and all this other stuff. Afraid of society. But when I saw women working with these eggs, a lot of them did speak up about what they wanted sexually. And I learned a lot about me. I'm a woman, but I learned a lot about women from working with women with these eggs. Okay. And I learned from speaking to men who interacted with women who worked with these eggs, especially women who they were interacting with beforehand and then after. Okay. So I think I made a connection with the things that I wanted to talk about. I really just wanted to reintroduce the egg again because I think it's really important tool, and it's good for women of all ages. It's good for women who even are postmenopausal, because when a woman goes through menopause, or her vaginal tissues can dry out and atrophy, she can have hormonal issues. So the egg helps with all of that, and it helps with a woman's orgasmic potential. Okay. So women who are having orgasmic issues, like, I really suggest working with the egg. And I really suggest, really connecting to your hips and engaging in dances that are very hip-centered. And it's even better if you can go to a class as opposed to just doing it at home, because a lot of times dancing at home, unless you're like a trained dancer, it's not the same as going to a class and having instruction and being challenged, and which forces you to focus really for real on what you're doing, and not just in your house doing random shit, right? But some people don't have access to classes, so the next best thing is just do what you can on your own. But moving those parts of your body. Life is short, and life is too short to not be having good sex. Life is too short to not be having good orgasms, okay? And so it's a sad existence to me that there are women who are in their 40s, 50, never had an orgasm, had 3 kids, never had an orgasm. Like, that's crazy, okay? So if that reason is because she has some type of trauma, the egg can help. If that reason is because she hasn't had a male lover that ever took his time, the egg can help. And you should be able to do it on your own as well. But it is good when someone else gives you one. But, I used to think when I taught the class that these orgasmic issues with women were all about, oh, it's her fault. She's, blocking something. And a lot of times that is the case. But I've also come to see with time that a lot of men are skillless, okay? It needs some skills. There's plenty of times I've had sex and just masturbated afterwards, because it's like, so there's that. Women have to be proactive about, seeking out your own orgasm, but also, this idea, like, women are supposed to have this so-called low body count, whatever that is. I don't know how somebody defines a low body count. I don't know what number that's supposed to be. And that men aren't. But if a woman has lived life and only had sex with 3 people in her life, or 5 people in her life, maybe even 10 people in her life, okay? 9 times out of 10, her sex life sucks, okay? Or a lot of it has sucked. I mean, some people are lucky enough to meet one person who can fulfill their needs, and he's there for years. Maybe she's married, maybe that's her husband. Maybe she married the man and he really pleases her. Some people are lucky enough for that to happen, but that's a rarity. So somebody said they contemplated using a rose quartz egg for years, but was always concerned about authenticity of the crystal and how to use it properly. Yes, I do have old videos where I talk about answering questions about it and using it. I'm thinking that it's the voices in my head are telling me it's time to start that again, start this educational process again, because it's been a while and I don't really see, I just feel like there's a new breed of women that need to be introduced, and I don't care what age you are. But just really quick, when you use it, you want to put the larger part of the egg facing up, okay? And the smaller part facing down. Now, that doesn't mean when a lot of times you take it out, it comes out upside down. Even though you put it in this way, it'll come out upside down. And I call these eggs mysterious because they do shit like that you don't understand. And you can have sex with them in too. And a lot of times men don't feel them. I feel like most of the time they don't. And you don't either, But I'm not going to go super into that because I can go on for days. This video is about to end in a minute. And so I want to close it out so I can save it. It will also be reposted on my YouTube page. So follow me on YouTube and Instagram. And if you have more questions about this, you can definitely check my other videos, or I'll make future videos if you want me to talk about it some more. Okay, so thank you guys for listening. If you like the video, please like it. Please share it. It'll help with their logarithm and all that. And I'll see you guys later, okay? Take care of yourself. Have good sex. Have good orgasms. And bye.